The thing that changed my life the most was losing my sister to suicide in June 2013. It was shortly after I graduated high school, and I was kind of on top of the world at that point. And then after losing my sister, I really kind of hit a low point. I knew I felt things deeper than most kids my age at around that time, but I didn't really know how that would manifest and how I would choose to pursue that, whether it be through school or later profession. But after I lost my sister, I really dove into mental health as sort of a passion of mine, and even more than that, just recognizing how many people struggle in silence, whether it be people in third world countries who don't have water, or people who live in poverty in the States even, to people struggling with mental health. I really learned just how much injustice there is, and I really wanted to do whatever I could to push back at that injustice. And so, since losing my sister, I've recognized that there's a lot of pain, but I've also recognized that there are a lot of people who are trying to do good work and to push back at that. And losing her, even though it broke my heart, it still hurts, but I've tried to use my experience to make sure that other families won't have to experience that pain. And even I'm trying to broaden my horizons further than mental health. I've kind of experienced a little bit of the mental health world, and how I can get involved in that, but more than that, I'm trying to grow as a person, and I'm trying to keep moving my story on and keep learning about other issues in the world and doing whatever I can and using my voice, however it may be, whatever job, whatever position, to hopefully make a difference and to hopefully let people know that they're not alone and that people see them and people care, and that hopefully someday we can make progress so that they can live a good life. The thing that makes me the most angry in the world is this idea of it's us versus them. I'm gonna speak to mental health in that regards, but this could be a variety of scenarios. I think too often it's the healthy versus the sick. It's the insiders versus the outsiders. It's the people who live in the United States versus the rest of the world. Um, but I think that this comes down to the lack of connection that we have, and so I think that this idea of us versus them is it's people not extending. It's getting so familiar and just accustomed to people who look like you, people who dress like you, people who act like you, that we never really extend out of that. We never break out of our shells, and I think that is it makes me so angry because I think there is so much diversity in this world that people can really grow and learn from, but too often we don't do that. And back to, like I said, I would speak to mental health. I think there is a wall. It's the wall between people who struggle with mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, self-injury, and the people who don't. And people who don't often don't really, they don't know how to go there, or they choose not to go there because it's scary. We fear the unknown, so to speak, and I think that that wall is it's just so frustrating because it's just, the stigma builds this wall, and it's just, it could be broken so easily by just talking about these issues and sort of bridging that gap between us versus them and making us realizing collectively we are humans. We're all in this together, and that we can reach out, we can talk to people who don't look like us, we can talk to people who don't act like us, we can learn, we can grow from each other. I think everyone knows something that we don't know, and if we're just open to receiving that, we could really learn a lot from each other. In our world, the greatest need is probably more empathy. I think that I talked a little bit about the us versus them thing in one of my previous questions, but I think that the lack of empathy is a big cause from that. It's so easy to hate from a distance or to kind of turn away at a distance, but I think if we had more empathy, we would better be able to understand other struggles and to understand that while it may not directly affect us, it may directly affect someone we care about. It may not even do that, but just to know that people struggle with things and we may have no idea, or we may not truly understand. I think if we were more empathetic towards others, even when we don't necessarily personally relate to their struggle or anything like that, I think that we would just live in a much healthier community as kind of a world. And that's not to say that we need more sympathy, because I think that sometimes there can be negative sympathy where it's, if you don't understand, you kind of say, oh, I do understand, because that could be insulting to someone if you don't really know what they're doing. But I think if you don't know how someone struggles, you have to ask those hard questions to better understand, so then you can meet them with that empathy and you can respond to them and you can hopefully do your best to help them and better understand where they're coming from. So that's probably, if I had to say the one thing that we need more of in the world, it would just be a little more empathy, because I think it would go a long way.